This week on NBA G League Takeover, Matt Ryan and Landry Shamet go 1-2 in the G League Draft. Where do they fit into the plans for the Knicks this season? Plus, from Scottie Pippen Jr. to Bronny James, we're taking a look at the sons of NBA legends. How are they looking to carve out a role at the next level? And finally, we head to Mexico City. What makes the Capitanes different from every other G League team? All that and more coming up on NBA G League Takeover.
Big win, on top, on top.
Welcome to NBA G League Takeover. I'm Mike Davis. If you love basketball and the NBA, well, you're in the right place. This is the show that explores all the news you need to know about the G League and beyond. This marks 24 seasons of the G League, but before tip-off on Friday, November 8th, we're getting you hyped. From Bronny to McClung to the GLeague Alums making noise in the association, we got you covered. But right from the jump, we need to break down the NBA G League Draft that went down this past weekend. Now, the players eligible for the G League Draft are guys who are free agents and do not have existing G League player rights. This gives players the ability to enter the draft multiple times. Zaire Wade is just one of the guys to do this. This year was the first time in G League history that all 30 NBA teams had an affiliate participate in the draft. For more insight on this, let's head over to our NBA G League insider, Gianna Hearn. So what's up, G? The Westchester Knicks, they drafted Matt Ryan and Landry Shamet back-to-back at the top of the draft. How do those selections fit the vision for the Knicks and what they're trying to accomplish this season?
Well, Mike, these are two guys that the Knicks want to see on their big team sometime. Definitely Landry Shamet, as they wanted him already, but in the preseason, he had a dislocation of his shoulder. So due to that injury, they cut him right before the season, which makes him available to be in the G League, but keeps him right in their backyard where he can be on their team, the Westchester Knicks, and they can see how he's progressing. He's expected to make a full return without surgery. So if that happens, they're hoping that he might be ready soon enough that they can bring him up for the regular season. The Knicks only have 12 players on standard deals right now. They need to have 14 by the beginning of November, very early on, so there's a little bit of time. But Matt Ryan is a guy they've been looking at him, sharpshooter. He shot 45% from the three-point line last season in 28 games. And he's someone that they need to make space for. This is a money issue, so they've got to maneuver some things. But you know what? Let's draft him for our G League team and take some time and see if we can maneuver some stuff. He may become a two-way player if they upgrade their two-way already, but there's some things that are moving and shaking, but these are two guys that they're invested heavily in and want to see potentially on their big time sometime soon. Okay, definitely a team competing for the NBA Finals. Let's talk about another top draft pick. 4th overall, Rip City drafted Thierry Darlin, an NBA G League Ignite alum. We know him well. And from what I understand, G, there's a deep Ignite connection there, as Rip City Remix assistant GM Pooh Jeter is super excited about the prospect of further developing this talent from NBA Academy Africa. We saw it when he was drafted. Let's take a look at that special moment.
Hey. Yeah. Woo. Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Congrats, Terry. I'm good, man. Good to see you. We're excited, man.
All right, well, great moment there. And Gianna, although they didn't play together on the Ignite, that connection is evidently still very special.
Pooh Jeter followed Scoot Henderson to the Trailblazers and left the Ignite organization just a year before Cherry was in Las Vegas. But that doesn't mean they don't have that connection. The Ignite team, if you know anything about them, they're a family and they look out for one another. And so Thierry Darlin, he's finally ready to be draft eligible. He wasn't because he was so young, but it's a guy that teams want to be invested in. And this will be a very specific and special situation where Thierry Darlin, the Trailblazers could say they had a hand in someone getting drafted and developing. That's not something that's ever happened before. And so Pooh Jeter, he's already been doing this with Scoot Henderson, and now he has another Ignite alum that he can take under his wing and kind of show him the ropes, something that Pooh was very invested in. So I wasn't surprised at this move at all, because if anyone's going to get Thierry ready for the draft, it's going to be Pooh Jeter.
All right, and lastly, G, we need to talk about superstar McClung. The Orlando Magic converted the reigning NBA G League MVP and back-to-back slam dunk contest champion to a two-way contract. So, Gianna, what does this mean for McClung and for the Magic?
You know, this means they want to give him more time and they're interested in him. Mac has bounced around a few different NBA teams and he hasn't stuck yet. And this is a pretty pivotal moment in his career. People know that he's bouncy, he's an energetic player, and he's a really smart guard. But they have questions. Can he stick in the NBA? Can he guard in the NBA? And time after time, he has shown them that he can do it. So Orlando, by letting go some of their other players that they had in the preseason and deciding to make him one of their two-way players, they're saying, we can see that in him. Let's give him some more time. And so he is the reigning MVP for the G League. He, like you mentioned, was a slam dunk contest champion. He has done so many things already. Look for him to do big things for this team in Orlando and Osceola.
All right, great stuff, G. That Hoya has got some hops. Well, this is a perfect time to bring in former NBA guard CJ Watson. CJ, after a great college career at Tennessee, you started playing overseas and eventually made your way into the association through the then D League. What is it like for a player navigating the ups and downs of a two-way deal, the nature of that, the mentality you need to have in order to succeed under those circumstances? Give us a little bit of insight on that.
Just the belief in yourself. I think when I was coming up, I definitely, didn't have the rights to do what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to go in there and show the coaches and the staff and the players also that I can play in this level. I think that's the same thing these players are trying to do. Go out there and continue to develop and show them that they can make shots, that they can defend, they can guard, they can be the player they wanted to be, and hopefully get that call up.
Yeah, you got to find that inner confidence. Sometimes it's not so easy. So a guy like McClung, what does he need to work on specifically to stay on an NBA roster? Because he's such an exciting, dynamic player. What does he need to do in order to find a spot on an NBA roster?
Yeah, we know he's explosive. We know he can get up and dunk with the best of them. He has to just go out there and make open shots. I think definitely when you get to the NBA level, guys are bigger, stronger, faster. They recover much faster. So you got to be able to create your own shot, make your own shot, and also just be able to guard.
All right, see, when I watch highlights of McClung, it's kind of like when I create my 2K player. That's how I'm supposed to look. Like, I always felt like that's in my head. That's what I should have looked like on the floor, but McClung actually can do it. All right, guys, well, we're just getting started here on NBA G League Takeover. When we return, we're highlighting the G League alums who are shining at the next level. Don't go anywhere.
Win on top.
Welcome back to NBA G League Takeover. Well, let's take a look around the NBA and check in on some G League alums who are going to work. First up, CJ, we need to talk about 7'1" big man Jay Huff with the Memphis Grizzlies, originally on a two-way contract with the Grizz and the Hustle. Now the fourth-year center just earned a 4-year deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. In 3 games this season, Huff is averaging 13 points per game and just over 3 boards. So check this, CJ. On Saturday night against the Magic, he went off, dropping 18 points in only 19 minutes of play. That's hard to do.
That's hard to do, but it's big time. It's very big time.
I mean, when a guy like that is feeling it, is it just one of those things where every shot you put up, you just feel like it's dropping?
I think so, too. It also just goes into putting the work that he probably put in over the summer and getting stronger, doing the things the coaches wanted him to do, and improving on every facet of his game, and just going out there and being confident in doing it.
It's pretty crazy because a guy like this, 4 years in the league, for him to be busting out now, what is clicking suddenly 4 years in? Because a lot of times a GM or a teammate, a coach might think, oh, this guy's over the hill. It's not going to happen for him. So 4 years in, for him to find himself now, what's going right?
I think every year you get more confident, and the game starts to slow down for you. I think this is the 4th year for me. Always was that 3rd and 4th year where things start to slow down, and you kind of figure out where you can score, where you can't score, and where you can be effective for the team. I think that's what's happening here. Okay,
and we're going to stay with the Grizz right there. I love that old school logo and that floor right there, because the Grizz, they got some Riz right now from the G League. Finding big man Huff ain't so tough for Scottie Pippen Jr., having spent the past 2 seasons with the South Bay Lakers. The son of an iconic NBA Hall of Famer is now making a name for himself, as Pippen Jr. is ranked top 10 in assists this season, averaging 7.7 assists per game. So CJ, the young guard is, only in his 2nd season, but clearly his game took a big step this offseason. What are you liking about his game so far? And if you're averaging 7.7 assists, you're top 10 in the league in assists. What are you doing? How are you seeing the floor that well? What's going right for him?
Yeah, I think for Scottie Pippen Jr., he's just be able to get downhill, break the defense down, and I think with his height and speed, he's able to see the defense before it comes over and shifts over, so he's able to make plays and see things before it happens. So I think that's how he's getting a lot of his assists right now.
And a guy like that, I mean, you play for a ton of teams. A guy like that who's in a situation with the Grizzlies where his counterpart, Ja Morant, is supposed to be scoring, right? He's not looking to pass as much as drop some buckets.
Yeah.
So a guy like Scottie Pippen Jr., when he's in that circumstance, you think the mentality, does a coach pull him aside and say, listen, we're already getting the buckets from Desmond Bane and Ja Morant. We need you dishing the ball.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Especially if you're that backup point guard, you don't want to be the starting point guard scoring and doing all that kind of stuff. So you got to come in and change the game by some way, in some shape or form, and that's what he's doing. He's dishing it. He's more of a traditional point guard, but also can score also, so I think it's great.
And he's got that Pippen DNA, we all know. Yeah. Pippen, he had to be the co-lead to MJ. He had to know when to dish the ball. All right, so great stuff there, CJ. Let's get into some more news and notes from around the G. So sorry in advance for everybody at home, but get ready to feel super old. Both Dennis Rodman and Penny Hardaway officially have sons in the G League. The Capital City Go-Go selected DJ Rodman out of USC and Jaden Hardaway out of Memphis, where his dad obviously was a coach, with the 43rd and 56th overall picks in the NBA G League draft. And speaking of fathers and sons, reports are pointing to the likelihood of Bronny James moving to the G League next week. Bronny saw some action in the season opener alongside his father. We saw Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. there. It's a very special moment. But now the 20-year-old out of USC will have the opportunity to develop his game with the South Bay Lakers. We're going to have more on this next week with Bronny James. But first, let me ask you this, CJ. I mean, let's get into this. Before we just dive into his game, the special moment, I mean, that was a great thing for families, fans of the NBA, the G League, to see a father and son on the same court at the same time. Yeah. What did you think of that?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I like LeBron. When I played against him, I was not born to hate him, but taught to hate him because he always beat us and stuff like that. But I definitely think this is a great thing to see. I don't think we're ever going to see it again, probably, but just to see LeBron playing this long and his son getting the chance to play with his dad and all the hard work his son also put in. It's not like he's just not good, but he's he's good enough to play in the NBA. So I love it.
So just right now at this current juncture with him, we know coming out of USC, he didn't demonstrate and display as much as we were hoping to from his game. But let's be honest and let's be real and fair. He did have some medical health issues and stuff at USC. What do you think he's going to really work on with the South Bay Lakers? Because, I mean, his dad, he knows the game better than anybody. What do you think LeBron's telling Bronny that he specifically needs to work on at that G League level so he can get back to the Los Angeles Lakers?
I think just go out there and have fun, develop, just like you saw the clip when his dad was sitting by him before he got in the game. Just take your time out, have fun. But I also think he needs to get better at three-point shooting, maybe being more of a point guard, because I think that's the position he's going to have to play, not a two-guard. So I think he has to do that and also be able to guard, just be able to take on that challenge.
I'm really curious, with last question for you here on this. How hard is this? I mean, when your dad is LeBron James, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Is his success really going to be predicated on the fact that he has to love the game as much for himself, and he's just got to say, listen, my dad's my dad, I got to be my own person? How much of it is just going to be, inner work?
It's all going to be inner work. I think it's all going to be what he puts into the game, and obviously what you put into it will bring back to you. But I think you can't compare him and his dad. His dad is one of the greatest ever, and no one can compare to him. You just got to go out there and love the game, like you said, and just do what he can.
All right, we're going to be keeping an eye on all those developments with Bronny James, and of course the South Bay Lakers. We'll have more on that next week on NBA G League Takeover. After the break, we're going international here on NBA G League Takeover. Make sure you pack some snacks and take out that passport.
Big win on top.
Well, the G in the G League name clearly represents Gatorade and its partnership with the NBA, but G could easily stand for global. NBA basketball has gone international, and a great example of that is the Mexico City Capitanes. Gianna, what's the outlook look like for the Capitanes this season, and how can you just kind of explain how the organization functions within the G? Because Mexico City is the one franchise without an NBA affiliation.
Yeah, so there are two G League teams that are outside of the U.S., which is pretty interesting. The Raptors 905 and then the Mexico City Capitanes. And they're super special because unlike the Raptors 905, who are tied to the Toronto Raptors, Mexico City does not have a parent club. So that means they don't have two-way players. They don't have affiliate players. So when you have that kind of tension between the team, when you play against each other, try to fight for call-ups and things like that, it's an even playing field with Mexico City. Everyone's fighting for calls, but not against each other because you're just out there hooping. And then it's a different scenario because they're playing around like 20,000 fans in their arena. Yeah. That doesn't happen in America, in the U.S., in front of the G League stadiums that we have right now. So it's just a very different vibe in Mexico City. They're actually treated like they are NBA players out there. And
there's one day hopes potentially of a team going to Mexico City. Before we talk about Dink Pate, a guy we know very well, let's talk about the NBA quality roster that they really have. You were telling me off air not too long ago, this is an organization, a team, a G League team with a lot of NBA talent. Let's break down that roster a little bit.
Well, we have Juan Toscano Anderson, who is such a big name, and he decided to go back to the Mexico City Capitanes when he's still trying to vie for his position in the NBA. This will be his 10th professional season. Wow. And he said there's no better place for him to go because he can fight really hard there and he doesn't have to fight against other people like I was mentioning. But Greg Brown III, Davon Reed, Trey Burke, we just go down the list. And this is not unlike last season. We had Kenneth Fareed, who the Manimal was in Mexico City just balling out. I mean, I was very surprised to see him there. And every game I was like, this dude's about to get a call.
That dude was great. I loved him.
Contract.
I loved him on the Nuggets. And of course, Trey Burke, big time Michigan guy, Reed with the Miami Hurricanes. But let's talk about Dink Pate. Okay, so this is a young gun from Dallas, Texas, spent last season with the G League Ignite here. What does he need to showcase this year to really become that top-tier draft pick that he's hoping to one day be?
You know, Dink Pate didn't get a lot of time last season to really showcase what he can be. I mean, he's the youngest player to be a professional basketball player. Last year at 17 years old. Wow. He's now 18 years old, guys, and finally making strides in Mexico. So it's as if he were to have left and gone overseas, but still staying within the NBA ranks. And he's got to prove that he can really be a floor general. He's got to be able to showcase his passing ability, his shooting ability, everything that we've talked about this whole show. Yeah. Many people have to showcase this to get to the NBA. But Dink is trying to get drafted. He's completely different than all the other players. He's not looking for a call-up. He's looking to be the #1 pick in the upcoming draft, hopefully. I mean, he's projected to be a first-round pick for sure.
And he's got some swagger. When I interviewed him last year, I mean, this is a guy with a tremendous personality. Yeah. He models his game after Penny Hardaway, actually. What do you think? I mean, his ceiling, he's the prototype of what NBA rosters want, right? That 2-3 who can shoot, slash, kick. I mean, he's an exciting talent.
I'll tell you this. All the scouts that I talked to last year thought he was the best player on Team Ignite. And that goes to say something when you have Ron Holland, who's projected to be a #1 pick last year, and Modest Buzelis. Right. And so his ceiling is very high. It's just going to be, will he go to a team that can develop him well? And Mexico City, I think, can do that because of the veterans they put around him. It's going to be very similar to an Ignite situation, but I think he's going to get more playing time than he saw last year, which will give him the reps that he needs.
All right, nobody's plugged into the G League more than Gianna Hearn. After the break, we're going to be talking with G because she's going to be selecting her G of the week. You don't want to miss it. That's after a short break. All right, welcome back. Well, there are a number of NBA veterans who will start the basketball season down in the G League. Let's take a look at some of these big names. Jahlil Okafor in Indiana, Buddy Boeheim at OKC. We got Thon Maker, Kevin Knox, Tony Snell, TJ Warren, and even Justice Winslow from those Duke days. So we got some big-time talent with NBA experience on some G League training camp rosters. Meanwhile, on opening night in the NBA, a record-tying 266 NBA players had G League experience. That is 50.8% of the league, also tying a record. One of those players is our G of the week. Gianna, let's send it over to you.
Well, you know, I've got to call him a G for that because Alex Reese, he is from the G League. He's really one of those guys who has grinded his way up to the NBA, and he has some highlights here. One of the best of the G of the week. We've got something for you to put a smile on your face. Alex Reese, he set a screen, he rolled, he was in perfect position just to get the missed bucket, and he puts it back in. Look at his teammates. OKC is known for this, to support their teammates. We see it all the time. This was Alex Reese's first NBA bucket, and it was super cool to see a kid who was originally in the G. He was a tryout participant. Before that, he was a bartender and also a mover. So just 3 years ago, that's what he was doing, Mike. And then he comes in and gets his first NBA bucket. It's a really cool story. So he's a G for that.
You get Alex Reese, the game ball. What's this group like?
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
It doesn't sound as good when I do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't score my first NBA bucket, so it's a little different. But look at that. From a bartending to a mover to then being right there on an NBA floor. Hoop dreams on display. What a special moment for him. CJ, what do you think about that? What did it feel like when you hit your first NBA bucket?
It was priceless. That's what you dream for. That's what you work hard for, and definitely I was happy to see because, like you said, he had so many different jobs, and you find so many different stories in the G League like that, and it's just great to see.
It's a great thing to see on display there. And let's just for a moment, OKC, are they your favorite, CJ and Gianna? Do you think it's going to be finally time for this team? We remember Russell, Harden, and Durant, and all those guys there. This might be the squad, though, that puts them over the top.
I think because of the way that they play as a family, I mean, this whole barking situation that they've created, bringing their teammates over all for an interview, not just one player, it's that type of chemistry that can create a championship squad.
Okay, I want to see some chemistry amongst us right now. Is everybody going to bark with me?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
If CJ's in, I'm in.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. That's chemistry, ladies and gentlemen. For CJ Watts and Gianna Hearn, I'm Mike Davis. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on NBA G League Takeover. We'll see you next time. Make sure you stick with us next week. Thanks, guys.